I'm Santana Garrett, and you're watching the Fans View Podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to a special WrestleMania episode of the Fans View Podcast. Today, I am joined by two of my good friends, two fellow Marks. One of us even has a little bit of, would you say, expertise in the business, a little bit of experience. It's not me.
Let's go with experience.
I want to welcome onto the show for the first time, Mr. Brad Stutzy himself. Thank you for coming on, brother.
My pleasure, boys. You and I have been talking about doing this for a long time.
Since I started. Literally since I started. Matter of fact, I think when me and Will had our maiden voyage podcast, we were trying to get you on. But you're a busy man, so we respect it. And then, of course, my other co-host for this evening is the most angriest man on the planet. Former co-host, sometime guest host of this podcast, Mr. Will Blackley. Will, how much you hate life tonight, brother?
It's not too bad tonight.
That's about what I expect.
He should have a scale that he goes on, like a 1 to 5, where every day gets a rating for how much he hates life.
Yeah, so it's not like 5 big booms. We just give him like out of 5 Eeyores. How many Eeyores are we looking at today?
That's amazing.
But to know
Disney will sue, though.
Yeah, oh, yes. Oh, yeah. They're going to send a cease and desist immediately. But to know Mr. Blackley is to love him. So what can you do? He's our teddy bear. Boys, it is WrestleMania season. I don't care if you're like Will and you're kind of in and out of the product. If you're like me and Stutzy, where we don't have lives, we just watch wrestling, and well, that's about it. I raise a kid every once in a while, but for the most part, it's wrestling.
Somebody at my shoot job today asked me what I did for fun, and I made up a bunch of bullshit. And then as the conversation went on a little longer and we got to know each other a little bit better, somebody said something about WWE being on Peacock now. And that's when I was like, oh, if you want to know what I actually do all day, it's just watch old wrestling on fucking Peacock. If you want to know if you want to know the truth of what I do all day, none of that bullshit that I said before, like reading books or exercising, none of that.
Yeah, reading books, the After mags in the 90s. Oh, God. I don't know what you guys have thought about it, but this build, we're just going to jump right into it, and then we're going to Tarantino it. What have you guys thought? Will, I'm going to start with you because I know you're in and out on the product. What have you thought about the build specifically this year to WrestleMania 41?
Not that great according to what I've seen. Like, it has not made me want to watch or attend or even care that I didn't go.
Okay.
Which has not been the past, which has not been common in the past.
Right.
Like,
right.
I don't know. It's just like none of the angles really jump out at you.
I got you. And that's from a super casual fan now. I mean, Will was deep in it with me back in the day, but he's falling out of love with wrestling. Stutzy, you are my positivity man. What do you feel? How are you feeling about this build?
Pretty solid, pretty good. I think anyone has to understand that last year is very hard to follow. Like as an act, to follow that act, I mean, because you're just not going to have that scenario every year where it is the culmination not just of like that year's story, but of like a 5-year saga. You're not going to have that every year. I honestly thought turning Cena would spark things up even more than it has. I think the delivery of the material by Cena and Cody has been fine, but it hasn't really, to me, turning Cena didn't light the fuse that I thought it would. Which I assume in this new regime, everything is pretty calculated that tells me that they're doing more. They're going to do a return. Maybe it's SummerSlam. Maybe it's one of the foreign pay-per-views. But the fact that the build to Mania has basically been just talking. They haven't really even done an angle. They haven't really done a fight or anything. Tells me that there's more on the back nine for them. I think the Jey Uso thing has come off fine. He was a surprise Rumble winner. He was ever going to main event unless it got so hot that the people willed it into the main event. And it didn't get that hot, so he's not the main event. But I thought the money promo that he did this past Monday, which would be 2 Mondays before Mania if you're watching this later, the money promo where he came out in all black and he was serious, I thought was good. On the whole, I think it's been solid.
And I want to pose this to both of you guys, so feel free to jump in. How much do you think? I think that I agree with you. I love the Cena Cody match. That's like the match I'm really looking forward to the most. I think obviously Cena being a heel has come off perfectly. Cena has Cena'd it. You expect nothing less from him. I think it's been wonderful. I think the only thing I would say is that it's kind of been handicapped by Cena's schedule. Not that we need it every single week, but we had to wait 2 weeks to hear from Cena for the first time. Then we got him 2 back-to-back weeks, and now we're going on another drought where we're not going to see him until the day before Mania, because he's not going to be on Raw this week. He's going to be on SmackDown. And I think we're really kind of hamstrung by that, which kind of leads me to my issue, because I'm not just going to dump all over the build like the internet is, like, oh, this is terrible. It's not rotten. It's not terrible. I think more than anything, WrestleMania 41 has suffered from being pushed so late into April. It is hard to keep that momentum going from Royal Rumble to the first week of April. You're now talking about the 3rd week of April. You know what I mean? And I think Gunther kind of said something. I don't remember what show he was on, but he said kind of the same thing. Like, you can't keep this hot for 2 months and expect people to care. So they've really cranked it up the past 2 weeks, which I feel like has helped. But at this point, I'm kind of like, I didn't care about Jey Uso to start with, so I'm not really in that demo. But it's like, do I really care? That's kind of been my thought process with it.
I think that's fair. I think he did organically get over, despite some of his deficits, which is to his credit. So I think it also sort of speaks to the environment and the vibe that has been cultivated at WWE now. It's definitely, we're back to people come to see the stars. We're back to it being very star-driven. And he is packaged well enough with the bright colors and the music and the entrance and everything. He's packaged well enough that he comes across as a star. And when you're over like that, it's easier to overlook the deficits. I think them, they haven't announced a match order yet. I think them potentially being first is fine. They have certainly set a precedent that the other title match goes first. That has happened multiple times. I think him doing his entrance when it's still daylight outside and all that, it's going to set a big party mode. It's going to suck everybody in that building into the party early on. I would anticipate that they will go first.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that's a good move. I don't think that's a bad move.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Will, do you have any thoughts on that match specifically?
Well, I've always been a big fan of Gunther, but I don't know. I cannot get into Jey Uso as a singles wrestler. Like, just, I don't know. It just.
Well, because he's not for you. He's not for me. He's not for us collectively. Like, we're not his demographic. Like, they want the kids. They want the young preteens. Like, that's the yeet. We're way past that.
The sunglasses, buy the necklace. Yeah.
We're way past that, boys. Well, you know what? We were going to do this in a different order, but let's run down this card first. Let's talk about this year's Mania, and then we're going to kick it back. We're going to reminisce a little, and then we're going to talk about some old Manias, if that sounds good to you guys.
Hell yeah.
We're just going to rapid fire this. I'm going to throw it at you guys. If you have any thoughts, give them to me. If not, just be like, no, I don't have anything. We're going to start off. I'm going to take this run sheet that I have. Obviously, it's not going to be in order. But the World Tag Team Championships, the War Raiders versus the New Day, this is kind of what I was talking about. I don't care. I the New Day was hot for a minute when they first turned, and it feels like they've done nothing with it. And the War Raiders, Vince ruined the War Raiders their first night in the WWE, in my opinion. And in my opinion, they've never regained that momentum. What do you guys think?
I like that Triple H has them dressing like bikers at least, and like regular dudes, and not antlers on their heads or whatever. I do think that's a weird addition. If I'm looking at it with my sort of thinking cap on, if there was only room for one tag title match, I think I would have put the New Day over to win the belts on Raw, and do New Day against Street Profits as like a special challenge or something. The Raw Tag Team Champions against the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. I think it's odd to only have one set of tag belts on the main show proper. Maybe that's just my OCD or something, but I think that's odd.
No. You remember when we used to respect the championships? That used to be a thing. Yeah,
but to what you were saying, I do think it goes into line with what I was saying about WWE's fan base that they have cultivated is very star driven, and a lot of these guys are not seen as stars.
Yeah.
Also appearing.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Will, you got any thoughts on the New Day or the War Raiders? Is that really tickling your fancy?
No, not at all.
So I didn't think so. Here's another match that actually has a pretty decent build and story behind it, and that's Naomi versus Jade Cargill. I am not the biggest Jade fan. I haven't been a fan of Jade since her AEW days. Whatever, I can take it or leave it. I do think the build for this, obviously, I don't love the competitors in it, but they have done a very good job. A nice story that they've put together and laid out for you piece by piece. I got to think you love this, Stutzy.
Yeah, I thought that they brought Jade back in an interesting way. They have for a week or two there. I actually thought they weren't going to touch until Mania, and then they've done a couple of little brawls since then. This will be fine. This will probably be the second or third match. 6 to 8 minutes. This will be very traditional, I think.
You call it what it is, paint by numbers. And we're going to get to predictions, by the way. After this, we're going to run through and hit our predictions, so save those. Okay. Yeah, we're going to run through at the end, and we're going to hit our predictions, so save those for the end. But I agree with you. I think it's going to be very paint by numbers. Will, I don't even have to ask you if you care about this match. I know you well enough to know you'll be in the bathroom for this one. Moving on to something that I think will be interested in. I'm very excited to hear your take on it. United States title match. You got LA Knight versus Jacob Fatu. I think this might it's not going to steal the show, but I think this is going to be a lot better than people are expecting. I think Jacob Fatu has really, really, he's starting to hit his stride, in the WWE. Will, what do you think? What are your thoughts on this match?
I love Jacob Fatu. That's probably right now, mid-card and below level, he's far and away the best person. I kind of wish they would have let him win the Rumble instead of Jey Uso. I know why they didn't, because they wanted to try to build a new star with Jey Uso, but I really think he should have won the Rumble.
I could see that. Stutzy?
I think Fatu's incredible. I'm kind of with you. I don't necessarily know if show stealer is the perfect term, but I think Fatu always delivers. LA Knight's track record when it counts is very good.
Mhm.
Pay-per-view matches. I thought he and AJ had a great match last year in a very similar situation where I think they were the second or third match, and was kind of one of the. They had a little bit of an issue, but it was one of the colder matches on that card, and I thought they knocked it out of the park. I'm with you. I think this one will potentially over-deliver, and yeah, almost gave away my prediction.
I'm excited for this match. It's one of the few that I'm very excited about. Next match up is the most racist thing I think I've seen all week. It is Rey Mysterio versus El Grande Americano. This is crazy. There's nothing else. This just if I just woke up from a coma, this smells like Vince McMahon, up and down, left and right, El Grande Americano. What are we doing, guys? Do either of you, this is going to be quick, do either of you really give a shit about this match?
I'm interested to see what the payoff to the El Grande Americano thing is. I actually think, again, putting on like my creative hat a little bit, I would have done it the other way. I would have had the match be Ray against Gable, with the stipulation that if Ray wins, El Grande Americano has to unmask, and then you can put Ray over, and then I don't know, fucking Omos comes out with the El Grande Americano, like it's someone who is clearly not Gable comes out and unmasks. I'm also a little surprised. I mean, I guess they do have one more Raw. I'm a little surprised they didn't go all in with the mask versus mask stip for that. But they do have one at the time that we're recording. They do have one more Raw, so they might add that last minute.
I can't see a world where that's not the stipulation,
right?
But I do wonder how they pay this off. I want to have faith in Triple H that this isn't just going to suck, because it's way too on the nose for Ray to win and it just be Chad Gable. Like, what did we do for a month for that? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Okay, Stutz,
those guys will deliver a hell of a match, though. If they have 3 minutes, they will deliver a hell of a match.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a little too goofy for me, and it's just not the right brand of goofy. So I'm interested in the post-match. I'm not so much in the match. Will, please don't say anything racist. But go ahead. I'm kidding, by the way, folks.
I don't even know what to say. Like you said, I don't understand how it's going to pay off without it just being Gable. Like, I kind of like Stutzy's take of have somebody like.
I love Omos. I'd pop so hard for Omos.
I think it's got to be something like, or some 400-pound guy. It's got to be something like that.
Maybe they can bring back Hornswoggle and let him do it.
Oh, God. No, Vince is gone. No, if Vince were here, yes, it would be Hornswoggle. Oh, my God. All right, let's just go. Let's move on. The next one was the world title match. It was Gunther versus Jay. We've already spoken about that. We'll come back to that with the predictions. Main event of night one. Roman versus Seth versus Punk. Feels like for the love of Paul Heyman on the line. What are we thinking, boys? Stutzy, I'm going to start with you, man.
Build to this has been very interesting. When they first shot the angle at the Rumble that kind of indicated that it would probably be a three-way, I was kind of like, I don't know. I will say it does feel... To me, it feels a smidge anticlimactic that Punk is finally getting his main event that he's talked about for 10 years or whatever it is, but it's not coming off winning the Rumble, challenging for the title. You know, it's not. It almost feels to some level almost like a consolation.
It feels like sorry. Yeah, it feels like sorry we fired you on your wedding day 10 years ago. That's what it feels like.
To some extent, but also I will say, you can spin that very easily. You know, that no matter what happens in this year, you can go into next year with Punk saying, yeah, I main evented, but I didn't win the Rumble. I didn't challenge for the title in the main event. So in that sense, you almost kind of get 2 main events out of it. You get the specialness of the first one, and then potentially if they go that route, you still have him winning the Rumble / him challenging for the title in the main event on the table. So that's an interesting way to go about it, I think.
Yeah. Will, what do you think, bud?
Other than the Fatu match, I'm probably most excited for this match. But
yeah,
because I love Paul Heyman. I could do without Seth Rollins because I'm just.
That's the airport Will showing.
I'm not a fan of Seth Rollins at all. Like since the Shield, I haven't cared anything about that. I mean, he has good matches, but I don't know. Something just strikes a nerve with me about Seth Rollins. And,
so, go ahead, Will. I'm sorry.
And I hope to God, I think they're going to, but I hope to God they don't put Paul Heyman with Seth Rollins. Because I'm glad you said that. My shit if they do.
I got a feeling you may be losing your shit.
You know what, though, Stutzy? I would have told you you're absolutely right if they hadn't telegraphed it so hard on Raw.
Yeah.
Because now it feels like it's too on the nose again.
But I think that's the most intriguing way to go off the air on night one, you know, and you want that want that hook on night one especially.
Yeah, I have another plan for this.
We'll save that for your prediction.
I would love for something else to happen here, and maybe let's bring back a blast from the past.
God, Curtis Axel. The original Paul Heyman guy. Ryback. No. Okay.
You know damn well who I'm talking about.
Yeah. I really think Seth turning heel, Heyman helping him win should have been the finish. I just don't think that's going to be the finish with them doing this whole Paul, you owe me a favor, because it's two right there. Like, I don't think Triple H is gonna pull the trigger there.
Did he die?
Yeah, sorry, I'm back.
He just seized up for a second.
I'm back. Yeah, I just froze. I was just saying, I would have agreed with you Sunday night. Like, Rollins needs to turn heel, Heyman needs to help him. We go from there because that's the most intriguing way to continue this or go from here. But the way they finished Raw, I don't. It's too on the nose. It's too right there in your face. It's too anticlimactic. They have to go another way. And I genuinely don't know what that way is going to be that is going to satisfy people. You know what I mean? Moving on to, well, I know what you want.
Hey, you. Yeah, watching this right now. I see you. If you're enjoying what you're watching, I've got one quick favor to ask, and it only takes a second, costs you nothing, and makes a huge difference. If you could go ahead and hit that like button, maybe drop a comment. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed. Doesn't seem like much, but for small creators, it's everything. So let's help more people find this channel and keep the content coming. And honestly, I'm pretty sure the podcast will be really grateful. So if you're having fun, you like what you see, make it official, click those buttons. And the Fans View podcast, we'll see you next time. Bye, friends.
Moving on to night 2 is the clusterfuck. That is the WWE Women's Championship 3-way. Maybe the weirdest build of Mania season. Maybe, perhaps, with Io versus Bianca versus Rhea. I feel bad for Io because she's really just a pawn and has absolutely no business in this match through no fault of her own. What say you, Stutzy?
I feel like she has to be there for a reason. Like, you look at this roster, there are so many people that are left off the show this year. I feel like she has to be there for a reason. I was certain that when they did the rematch on Raw, that would be Rhea getting the title back and the singles match, and then Io would be in like the women's 4-way tag or something like that. For her to still be in the match to me, seemingly telegraphs her winning. I don't think she's winning, but I'm kind of with you. I don't know why she's there otherwise.
To be the sacrificial lamb, I think, is what they're doing.
Could be.
Somebody's got to take the fall, and they don't want to blow up Bianca right before they turn her heel. And obviously, they don't want to beat Rhea at WrestleMania again. So, I mean, that's what makes the most sense to me. What do you think, Will?
I'm with you guys. I don't understand why she's in this match, other than maybe she's gonna win.
I mean, I think she's phenomenal. Don't get me wrong, but like you said, the build has been wonky.
Weird. Yes, wonky is the perfect word. Speaking of a build that's been weird, but kind of in a good way, is the Intercontinental 4-way. You got Braun Breaker versus Penta versus Dominic versus Finn. I think this one is pretty cut and dry, but I'm going to save it for my predictions. Do you guys have any thoughts on this match?
Love the quasi-annual multi-man like Intercontinental title. I'm glad they're not pulling out the ladders unless that gets added on Monday, which it always could. I actually would have gone even bigger and done 6, I think. And I think I would have put Sheamus in there and maybe one other just to create a little more. Sheamus has always got that story of having never won the IC, just to create a little bit more. Because as is, I think. And again, we're going to do our predictions. There's a couple of ways that it can go, but there's really only 2 ways that it can go. Really. Yes. So I think I would have gone even bigger and done a 6-way with maybe Sheamus and I'm struggling to think of somebody right off the top of my head, but there's a lot of good people that are in that Andre Battle Royal, so you could have plucked somebody.
Do you throw Phoenix in there?
Well, a little tough with the SmackDown thing, but you could.
I mean, they've done worse.
They definitely have. I personally like that they're keeping them apart.
Yeah, no, I agree. Will, what do you think? I know you're a Braun guy.
I am. I wish, I know why they didn't do it, but I kind of wish it was just him and Penta.
Well, it basically is.
Kind of do too, especially if the Raw tag belts were going to be on the show anyway. You could have put Dom and Finn Balor in that and gotten all the same dynamic with them.
Yeah.
But like Stussy said, if you're going to do a 4-way, you might as well make it a 6-way and use 2 other people out of the Andre Battle Royal and give them a spot on the show.
Yeah, I agree.
There's so many people that got left off this show that kind of should be on the show.
Yeah, because, I mean, it feels like the match is kind of, in my opinion, cut in half. You know at some point, Finn and Dom are going to take each other out. Like, we've been watching wrestling long enough to know that's what's going to happen. So it actually is Penta versus Braun, in reality. But, yeah, I agree with you, Sutsy. That's a great idea. Like, we're not scared of multi-man matches in the WWE. Let's just throw 2 more bodies in there and add a little, spice it up a little bit. Moving on to something I am, even after tonight, even more excited for, but that is Drew versus Damian, and I will not call it a Sin City street fight, in a regular street fight. Why? Before we start, why the hell does WWE have to do this? Why does everything have to be a Miracle on 34th Street fight, fucking suck my ass from behind street fight? Why can't we just have a street fight?
Well, in this specific instance, and I hope that my expectations are not too high. In this specific instance, with it being WrestleMania, you could do a lot with the Sin City street fight because Allegiant Stadium is not that far from like the Strip proper. Like, you could do something kind of like the Piper Goldust like backlot brawl where like these guys really end up like fighting like on the Strip, or you could do something to tie in Vegas very easily in this. again, I hope my expectations aren't too high, and it may end up being just the garbage cans and kendo sticks that we're used to. But
and like a slot machine or something fucking stupid like
yeah,
that.
I have this image of them doing something like the backlot brawl, or does anybody remember the In Your House pay-per-view from '97 where Mankind and Hunter Hearst Helmsley are the first match, and they are brawling. Yes, they brawl throughout the show. They keep cutting away to them brawling throughout the show. You could do something like that here and have them literally end up fighting on the Vegas Strip.
Yeah, you could do that, but do you want to do that with a star like Drew? Do you not want to have him in front of the house?
Well, I mean, it starts in the ring, obviously. Yeah, it starts in the ring. But with the street fight stip, I don't know. Maybe my expectations are too high, but I think you could get creative with this. And, you know, I could see a scenario where they end up somewhere else that ties into a Vegas theme. If I don't think there's a casino on the premises at Allegiant Stadium, but something that ties in the theme somewhere.
No, but
I was
there next to Mandalay Bay.
I was gonna go the same direction. This has to end up on the Strip. Like
I think so.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, that would be best case. I just don't like
I would rather have it go that way than the one that was at Mania 13. Like
the Chicago street fight.
Yeah.
That's a great match, though.
Yeah, that was a shit show in the best possible way. I mean, they beat the man with the kitchen sink.
I will say, I don't think Priest and Drew is the match to do it in. But I want this on the record just in case it happens. This whole time, since they've been doing this, I have been dying for them to do the old territory spot where, like, the guys brawl out of the building and you don't see them again. And then on night 2, they brawl back into the fucking building like they've been fighting all night. I don't know that this is the match to do it on, but ever since they started doing these 2-night Manias, I have been dying for them to do that with somebody. So I'm putting it on the record just in case they do it with this match. But I have been dying for someone to brawl out of the building on night 1, never be seen again, and then just in the middle of the show on night 2, they brawl back into the building and they're all covered in like dirt and mud and blood and everything.
I love that. That's pretty good. Yeah, I got high expectations for that one. This next match, we're just gonna go ahead and give our prediction because of the nature of it. It's Randy Orton versus TBA. So I'm just gonna put you on the spot. Stutzy, who you think it is?
It's okay to acknowledge when we're recording this.
Yes.
We're recording this just after the SmackDown on the 11th, so the SmackDown a week before. That seemingly indicates it to be Solo Sikoa. I would not have picked him. Excuse, I shouldn't say that. I would not have thought of him as an option because I assumed, probably correctly so, that he was figured into the Fatu scenario, either in the corner or running in or whatever. But it occurred to me while watching him kind of confront Randy tonight, that's the perfect guy to put in that spot because literally Randy can run all the same spots he was going to run with KO. Like, he can have the exact same match they were going to have with Solo that they were going to have with KO.
I've got an out-of-the-box pick for you, but Will, I want to hear your thoughts. Do you have a pick?
Not really.
That's fair. Not watching the product week to week. Here's my outside-the-box pick, and I really thought they were going to pull the trigger tonight. Nick Aldis.
A lot of people did.
And I still think it's a possibility. Here's another outside-the-box one that is not going to happen, but because I love him so goddamn much, I would love to see it.
This better not be who I think it is.
Listen, you want an opponent for Randy.
No.
Randy doesn't have to win. Randy's Teflon, okay? Randy's Teflon. Randy can lose. Randy can be crushed, okay, at WrestleMania.
Oh, okay. I didn't see it going this way.
Who better? Fuck wait until Monday, because I'm pretty certain he's coming back the night after Mania. Why not just go ahead and bring Rusev back at Mania and let him beat Randy? You fucked him in Santa Clara against Cena. You shit on him. Let him come back. He doesn't have to come back. I guess he's kind of coming back in the Cody spot a little bit, but you don't have to, you don't have to make him a main eventer, even though beating Randy kind of does that. But Rusev would be that's a in the stars pick. That's literally less than a 1% chance. Realistically, I think it's probably going to be. I think it's going to be Nick Aldis. But who I would like it to be, I would love for it to be Rusev. Would love it.
I think the Nick Aldis thing has legs, and I thought the back and forth promo that they did tonight further establishes that. The thing is, they would have to educate this audience very quickly that Nick Aldis is a wrestler, because a big percentage of this audience doesn't know that. I think if it was going to be Aldis, they would have turned that up a little bit more in the promo tonight. There would have been some mentions that he's a former world champion, or he would have had a package or something. I do think, however, this scenario that has come up has put the thought in their minds to do that match down the road somewhere. Especially the line with Aldis saying that he needs Randy's respect. I think it's a shame that they just went to England, because that would be perfect if there was like a London SmackDown in the next 2 months or something like that. But I almost wonder if this scenario falling into their laps has kind of put the idea in somebody's head to tell like a 4-month or a 6-month or whatever story that ends up in an Aldis Randy match. I think it's too soon to have to catch everybody up to speed that this guy is a former wrestler in 8 days or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's fair. Like I said,
my dream pick, before they kind of I feel like they tipped their hand with Solo Sikoa tonight. Prior to that, my scenario, I don't know people's engagement with NXT, but I'm a big NXT supporter. I think they've really hit their stride. An important part of this, I wanted the Randy Orton match on night 2. Kind of what you were saying about Rusev. Don't worry about calling him up the night after. You have Obafemi drop that title on Saturday morning. And then show up Sunday night to beat Randy Orton. Would be phenomenal. That was my in the stars pick. But I do feel like they kind of tipped their hand with Solo tonight.
Yeah, we're building this
up. Which he's a good pick, I think.
He'll be fine. Nobody's really going to care. It's Randy. We just want to see him RKO somebody. See how crazy of an RKO he can hit, and then let's go home happy.
The problem with our picks, and I'll save the rest of this for when we do our predictions. The problem with our picks is I think Randy has to win.
Yeah, that's true. That for sure. That's true with Aldis and Rusev and Oba. You don't want to call Oba up and then
for the big picture of where I suspect they're going, Randy has to win.
Yeah, that makes sense. For sure, that makes sense. The next match pisses me off to my core because I just hate this person as a human being. I don't even want Will's opinion because he shares mine. It's AJ, whom I love, versus the piece of shit that is Logan Paul. Stutzy, what do you think about this match?
Well, is your do you have a personal story about Logan Paul, or you just don't care for him as a celebrity, or?
I don't care for him as a human being. I think he's just a terrible human being. I think him and his brother are assholes, at a cellular level, not at I don't like you because you're a heel. I just don't like you. I don't want to watch you. I won't watch you. I think he was given way too much, way too quick. Not that he's not one hell of an athlete. But I just, there's just something about him as a person that just.
I mean, on the given too much too soon. I mean, I don't know where he would rank in popular culture, but when you are one of the most famous people in the world, you can't be taking arm drags in the second match.
No, but you do not headline a pay-per-view with the world champion within the first year either. He had no business in that match with Roman in Saudi. And maybe that was the Saudis clamoring for him and saying that's what they wanted.
I mean, devil's advocate, he had more wrestling experience when he headlined with the world champion than when Mr. T headlined with the world champion. Devil's advocate. He paid more dues than Mr. T.
You're about to crank Will Blackley up, Stutzy.
Just saying.
Oh, buddy.
I have no personal stories. I do know some people on a personal level who have worked very closely with him, and they have said nothing but good things. So that's good enough for me. I think this is fine. I think this will be a fine little, Logan has to wrestle somebody.
Yeah.
Due to his nature as a celebrity, as a star, because again, it's a star-driven business. Him and AJ will have a nice little match. I think they have handled Logan very well, in as much as like he wins some, he loses some. Not saying he's retiring tomorrow, but AJ is in the autumn of his career. This is one Logan can win. I have no problem with it.
Yeah, I don't like Logan as a person. I just don't want to see him on my TV. I'm going to watch it because I do think through gritted teeth, this is going to be a pretty phenomenal, pardon the pun. It's going to be a pretty phenomenal match. There's going to be some cool spots.
Yeah. And AJ's a pro. Like, it's very, this fits together well for me.
Yeah, I can see that. But you know what the problem is for me, that's really sticking out to me as you just kind of said that, was this match is fine. But that's the problem. There's a lot of matches on this card that are, that's fine. This is fucking WrestleMania. What are we doing, man? Like, I think going to 2 nights, this is a whole nother can of worms, but going to 2 nights was the worst decision they ever made. They've watered WrestleMania down to the point where it's almost not recognizable. But that's another rant for another day. We're gonna move on to the second to last match on my rundown here, and that's Liv and Raquel versus, it was TBA, but now we know it is a mishmash of tag team wrestlers that aren't a tag team and aren't tag team wrestlers, in Bayley and Lyra Valkyria, who already is holding the women's Intercontinental title. Not that you would know because she doesn't defend it. So I'm tipping my hand on this one. How do you feel about this match, Stutzy?
Very surprised that they did not do, or seemingly aren't going to do, the basically traditional women's 4-way tag that gets, 4 more girls on the show. I can't say I have a problem with it being Bayley and Lyra, because you do want Bayley on the show. And none of the women's tag teams are really over. Like, no one has really, like, they did that gauntlet match tonight, and again, it was fine. And I thought some girls looked good in it, but no one stood out from that pack to make you go, oh, they should have won, instead of Bayley and Lyra, who have never teamed together. To me, that's a problem. So under the circumstances, I can't really fault him, because you want Bayley on the show. I 100% would have put money on the challengers being Dakota and Io Sky. I'm very surprised the circumstances behind. I don't know what you do with Bayley in that scenario, but I'm very surprised the circumstances that have led to those 2 particular matches.
Yeah, part of me thinks maybe this match is Liv and Raquel versus Kyrie and Dakota, if healthy, bodies prevailed.
Now, you want to talk about somebody who I expect to see the Monday after Mania.
For sure.
Who apparently is like 240 pounds now.
I saw that. My problem with this match is just this women's tag team title. It's too early in the lineage, and we're throwing lineage around pretty loosely, to be doing this at the biggest show of the year. I understand where you're coming from, where like you want the star power, you want Bayley on the show, but you do have tag teams. Granted, they're not over like Bayley is. Bayley's more over probably than any tag team in the division. But you do have teams, you're just going to feed them to Liv and Raquel anyway. You know, Bayley and Lyra are not winning the titles at WrestleMania. So I'm a homer and I love Casey, so I'll just give them as an example. Why couldn't you just throw Casey and Caden in that tag match, let Liv and Raquel swallow them up, and be done with it? No, instead, you throw two singles wrestlers. One's already a champion, and you throw them in the tag team title match. Like, it's just, I don't think it's respectful of the title. I just don't think it was the move.
You and I have never talked about this. So I mean, this is happening on the air. You and I have never talked about this. Casey, to me, is one of the biggest misses that they have had in the past 10 years. She should have been the female Rey Mysterio. She should have beaten Shayna Baszler in NXT when Shayna was on that big run. You could have made her a female Rey Mysterio, like a female underdog. I've never been a big fan of the tag team with her and Caden. Nothing against Caden, just because I think she has so much potential as a single that I almost resent her being in that tag team. I don't know what the issues are, if they feel like she hasn't developed fast enough or she's not big enough. I don't know what her perceived deficits are. But man, when she first came in and was doing like the Ninja Warrior stuff, which she doesn't even do as part of her gimmick anymore, I was like, this girl is so likable. She's little. You can get sympathy on her. You can get heat on her. To me, she is one of the big misses of the past 10 years to me.
Yeah, I could kiss you right now, Stutzy, because there is no bigger Casey Catanzaro fan than I am. The fact that, you know, and you have a good point about her being thrown in that tag, you know, and I know she's having a good time in it, and that's great, but there's such a ceiling on tag team women's wrestling.
Yes.
Like, what are we doing? Like, yeah, okay, she's small. This isn't the men. Her being so small is fine. She is super athletic. I mean, you could bounce her around with somebody like Charlotte. Can you imagine the matches her and Kyrie could have? Her and Asuka could have, Bayley, you know, go down the list. But this is a pro Casey podcast here. Will, what do you think about this tag match? Where do you stand? You got to watch SmackDown tonight and that gauntlet.
I think Casey and her should have won. I would have rather seen that than just made up 1 week tag team of Bayley and
yes.
Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Could it feel any more thrown together than, you know, not only are they not a tag team, they literally just got thrown together tonight. I mean,
at that point, if that's what you're going to do, just have all the teams in the gauntlet do a gauntlet at Mania versus the tag team champions.
Yeah, or you just have like a 4-way match. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very surprised you're not doing the 4-way. I have two theories that I have. They're not based in anything other than my own speculation.
Love that. Bring it.
But if I recall correctly, Liv was involved in Alexa being eliminated from the Rumble and also from the Chamber. I wonder if at some point the working plan was them against Alexa and Nikki Cross. And the Wyatt Six has kind of disappeared. You know, Alexa herself has kind of disappeared. But I wonder if at one point the working plan was for them to wrestle Alexa and Nikki Cross. Just the fact that they made sure to get those two interactions between Liv and Alexa. My other theory that I have no basis on whatsoever is I wonder if at some point in all this, now certainly a decision would have had to have been made at some point. I wonder if somewhere along the way, if they were possibly either holding out or talking to Becky to team with Lyra. Because that team has history, makes a lot more sense. And somewhere, and they had Bayley on the back burner, you know, in case in case that fell through. But I wonder if at some point, if nothing else, the pitch was for Becky and Lyra.
Yeah, and this had to be a last minute. It feels too thrown together for it to have any real thought besides break glass in case of emergency, and here we are.
Well, it's not so much an emergency, I think, as much as Bayley would have been. I think if either of those matches happens, Bayley maybe wrestles Chelsea Green or something like that. I think you want Bayley on the card, and it's just, okay, we don't have a tag team. It's Bayley and somebody.
I'm glad you brought up that name too, the disrespect. How is the United States champion not on this card? The disrespect for
to me, with her gimmick and everything, again, I have no firsthand knowledge. They have to have her pegged doing something with a celebrity or something, just because it fits so naturally with her gimmick. I don't know who's supposed to be there, but it would not surprise me. I don't even really know who's famous anymore because I'm 40, but a name from 15 years ago, it would not surprise me if they have her doing something with like a Kim Kardashian or somebody who's there. I feel like she makes a cameo somewhere. I feel like she has to.
Yeah, she'll be in the backstage, like kind of in that Santino Marella spot for the longest time.
Yeah.
Where she comes in there and insults a celebrity, gets smacked or something. And
something along those lines. I think she has to.
Something wildly disrespectful. This brings us to... this is the match of the weekend, obviously. It's the undisputed WWE title match. It's Cody. It's heel Cena. I mean, we talked about this kind of in the opening. Is this not the match you're looking forward to the most of the weekend? Will, I'll start with you, bud.
For sure. Like you guys said earlier, though, like it just seems with his schedule limitations that we didn't get enough of Cena. Like it's Cody trying to build a match with Cena by himself. Like if nothing else, they should have done like pre-taped promos or something with Cena, like maybe back like they used to do back in the day, where like Shawn would be at home or whatever. And
well, how much of a scumbag heel move is it? You remember the I Bring It via satellite shirts that Cena had building up to Mania 28. If he is now the one that is showing up via satellite, like that would have been a great heel move for something like tonight. That would have been fantastic. You could have interrupted, that circle jerk that Cody had tonight on SmackDown, with a little pre-tape segment or whatever. So I agree with you. That's a missed opportunity. Stutzy, where do you stand?
I wasn't crazy about the match at first because I thought it telegraphed Cody being booed, which I think you don't want. And then they turned John heel, and I was like, okay, well that's the way to work around that. The problem I think is, and the Triple H regime creatively has got a lot of consumer confidence with me, so I feel good trusting it and leaving it in their hands. The problem I think could be that Cena potentially winning 17. And this kind of gets us into our picks a little bit, but the concept, potentially Cena winning 17, is such a big historic moment and everything. It's probably going to get a pop regardless. So, I would look for them to really, if that's the direction that they're going in, they're going to have to really pile on the heat. It's going to have to be heat heavy, because it's like there's been plenty of instances where even like Dolph Ziggler was a heel technically when he cashed in Money in the Bank, but it was such a big moment and everyone was ready for it, and you know what I mean. I think Cena winning 17 potentially is such a big moment that there needs to be plans in place that hopefully it won't get a positive reaction if they don't want it to, which I assume you don't.
Yeah, you have to think. And we're gonna kind of stray away from talking about that match just because we're gonna get to it again, I'm sure, in these predictions.
If you haven't liked or subscribed, you're gonna be joking me. If you haven't liked or subscribed, you're going to be joking me.